Hello everyone, Mr. Nash here.
And Mr. Brett Johnson, and we're here to talk about the importance of transitions. You could think of transitions as kind of like the on and off ramps to a highway. If you don't have good transitions, you're going to have a lot of car accidents and crashes, and people are just going to get confused as to where to go and what to read next.
It's going to be pretty ugly.
Yeah.
Transitions are small, they're simple, they don't take a lot of work, but it's a skill that's just so important for the clarity and the overall satisfaction of the reader. If you don't write with transitions, just like ugh,
And
it's just like
people will just get lost along the way. They won't be able to follow those signs.
yep.
And you should have transitions not only in the beginnings of each paragraph, but throughout the paragraphs as you're changing ideas and whatnot. You keep having to add those transitions in. So using transitions helps your reader follow your thoughts. Your transitions bring your ideas together. They leave one thought and enter a new one. And there are lots of places where you should use transitions. You should use them as you move from one claim to another. So at the beginning of all new body paragraphs. You should use them in between thoughts within a paragraph, and when you switch to address the opposing view.
So just for a second, like if you have multiple pieces of evidence, like you have a claim, and within that claim there's 3 different evidence pieces, between presenting each piece of evidence would likely be a spot you need to work on your transition. Between like, this is a fact, this is a fact, this is a fact, you need to have something to lead you from one to the other.
Right, and your transitions need to really flow too. You don't want them to be these blatant, obvious, big exit signs with flashing lights. Just nice transitions. Nice turns off the highway. Never use a transition word at the beginning of an essay, so the first word of your essay should never be a transition word. That's just kind of obvious. And never use transition words to begin a paragraph, but you can use them in a phrase to start a new body paragraph. So don't start your first body paragraph with firstly or secondly, because that just kind of sounds really elementary and you're in 8th grade now.
So it would be like a different phrase it would be a transition phrase rather than just a transition
word. Transition words like finally and firstly and secondly, those are for like younger kids, but you're getting older and more sophisticated now, so you wouldn't want to use a transition word right at the beginning of a paragraph like that.
Okay, so here are some sample transition words. Like if you wanted to move forward, like you're within a paragraph but you're moving from one idea to the next, it could be like furthermore, also, for instance, in addition, or you could provide an example like as you can see, in other words, to illustrate this point. Like, so these are like some things you can do to sort of move to the next idea within the same body paragraph.
You're turning a corner in contrast and nevertheless, paying attention. Notice how in this paragraph we talk about this, da-da-da. So you get the idea. And there's lots of different types of transitions that you can put into your paper.
And then here's some transition words where you can actually like point out, notice how, consider this, like you're actually trying to
show the other side.
So this is kind of show that there's something important coming next.
Right.
So there's lots of different ways you can use transitions, and I would expect that you would use probably transitions from all 6 of these categories within one paper.
And there's lots of other categories out there. These are just 6 sample categories.
Okay. So how to tell whether you need transitions?
Your instructor has written comments on your paper like choppy or jumpy, or somebody has read your paper, your friend, and they can't seem to follow where you're going with your thoughts. That's a really clear sign. If you wrote your paper in several chunks, you wrote one body paragraph today and another body paragraph tomorrow, and you're kind of working off of your outline that you've made, but you're not writing your paper all at once, you probably need to go back through and then add in those transitions to make it finally flow. Or you're just working on a group paper, and the draft that you're writing is written by several different people, and you're putting that paper together. Sometimes that happens in class where, hey, I'll write the introduction, I'll write the body paragraph, and you write this paragraph and that paragraph. And then now, as you bring your paragraphs together, because they're written by several people, you need to put those transitions in to make that paper flow.
Okay, so here now is an example of a couple of paragraphs here without transitions, and then how we've put transitions in to make them flow. And I think the example here is really at the beginning of the paragraphs, not within the paragraph. But you can see here that this section, the paragraph starts, I receive many emails a day. Okay, like that kind of comes that's like boom,
jump, boom.
Weird. So it's coming off of this paragraph where it says, I'm planning my next trip. I receive emails. Whoa, that's like trip to emails. There's something weird going on there. So look at how the transition, which is bold here, has sort of led as the topic sentence from one to the next idea.
So I've been planning my next trip, and then you say, since I'm addicted to traveling. So you're kind of like giving a little transition into that next paragraph. And notice you're starting with a transition phrase, not a transition word.
So it's not like, next, I receive many emails. It's, since I'm addicted to traveling, I make sure to stay on top of the latest deals. I receive many emails. Emails are related to receiving deals.
Right.
It makes sense. It transitions a little bit more sophisticated.
And you can see there's a second transition in the next paragraph, as if receiving constant emails about deals wasn't enough. So that kind of makes that, I recently paid to receive monthly magazines. That transition just kind of flows nicely.
Good. So I think you can see that how you can make the phrase here would be more important than like, next, I also receive a magazine.
Right.
That's kind of boring, whereas this is much more sophisticated.
So now for your guided practice, it's a little bit, we have two things that we want you to do. First, we just want you to take some sentences and see if you can put the transition in or pick the best transition. This is just kind of to practice using transitions in general. So there's 1, 2, 3, there's 5, I might write 5 or 6, 5 sentences I wrote. So go through those sentences and pick which transition you would use within those sentences to kind of help go from one idea to the next idea. And then in the second...
Well, so this one, what I would do is number your paper 1 through 5 and just write the word that you would choose here. So why don't you pause the video and do that now.
Okay, and then now for the second transition activity, I've written out a paragraph for you. It's kind of like in addition to the other paragraphs we were working on. So read that paragraph to yourself and then try to put a transition in the front of that paragraph to make that like a transition phrase to try to make that paragraph flow a little nicer. Go ahead, you can begin now.
Okay, so you've now completed the video on transitions. I hope you see that just a simple language like a little word or a phrase to link two things together can make your writing so much more effective than if you just had it be choppy.
Great.